My name is Tierney Malone. I'm a visual artist and storyteller and also a host of a radio show in Houston called the Houston Jazz Spotlight, where I focus on the history of jazz in the city, past and present. And it airs weekly on Wednesdays on KPFT. And this talk today is sponsored by the Houston Museum of African American Culture. And it is my pleasure to take part in this conversation as a part of the Juneteenth celebration 2020. I have a little statement I want to read first, and then we're going to get into it. The blues traveled the Atlantic in the belly of slave ships, one of many pieces that enslaved blacks held on to and planted in the soil of the New World. It took root, and from that seed came the fruits of gospel, ragtime, jazz, rock and roll, rhythm and blues, and hip hop, but especially the blues. But it seems that the descendants of the seed bearers have left the roots for others to tend to. It is time for us to reclaim those roots and nurture them as our ancestors did. And today we're going to explore the importance of the blues and the connection it has with the Lone Star State of Houston, Lone Star State and Houston, and with master blues drummer Tony T.C. Coleman, who has worked with many of the greats of the blues, including B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, Otis Clay, Etta James, Albert King, Johnny Taylor, James Cotton, Katie Webster, Z.Z. Hill, O.V. Wright, Albert Collins, and Buddy Guy, just to name a few. Brother Coleman, in my opinion, is a cat that has the equivalent of a PhD in the blues after playing with all of these giants that I just named. And it's my pleasure to bring to the conversation Brother Tony T.C. Coleman. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's good to be here with you. It's good to see you.
Well, we have a lot of ground to cover, but let's just get started with you and your connection with the blues. If I can ask you, when did you first become aware of the blues?
When I was a embryo and
Plain
a
as simple as
fetus.
that.
Actually, all my life I've been familiar with blues, but I didn't know it until I got old enough to understand what it was. So, you know, when you are born in the United States of America as a black man, you're going to have the blues, woman, black woman, child, brown person. You're going to have the blues the first day you realize you exist. If you don't know it subconsciously, you already got it. You'll know.
I heard that.
It's natural. It's our culture. It's what we had to go through in this country to become who we are today.
And how did the drums come into your life? How did you end up playing the drums?
Well, once again, I'll say the same thing. When I was a fetus. But actually, as long as I can remember being alive, I always wanted to play drums. Anytime I heard music, any kind of music, I'd be patting on things. Oh, wow, rhythm. I just had it in me. That's all I ever wanted to be. My whole life was a drummer. As long as I can remember being alive to today. I still feel the same way about drumming and drums and music as I did when I was a little kid. It never left. It's still here. So.
Were there any musicians that you kind of looked up to or modeled yourself after as you were developing yourself on the drums?
Well, later on, of course, whoever was popular at the time, but anybody. But when I was growing up as a little boy, anybody I heard playing the drums, whether it was in the high school band or if it was some band playing, I was always wanting to be a drummer. But of course, when I got old enough to be able to go to concerts and see bands, James Brown, anything out of the school of James Brown that's what I was all about. Gotta have that funk, gotta have that rhythm, you know.
I heard that. I heard that.
But any and everybody involved with music in all genres, I've always been inspired by anybody. I still am to this day. Everybody is the same for me as a musician. No, it doesn't matter how high you are or how low you are. It doesn't matter. If you're a musician, it's just something that I feel comfortable with and being around and meeting people that play music. We're like anything else, I guess. If you were into race cars or horse racing or flying airplanes, you know what I mean? I thought I had this thing where it wouldn't do that. But anyway, am I still here?
You're still here. It's
Okay.
all right. It's all right.
Okay.
I want to just go back just a little bit with your connection with the blues. Did you grow up in a household where blues music was played?
Well, I'm 64 years old, so I was born in 55. And when I was growing up in Kissimmee, Florida, where I grew up, every house had the blues coming out of it. And you've probably heard the statement, it takes a village. Well, I grew up in a situation where everybody in my town knew everybody, so the doors were open and music was always there. If it wasn't gospel, it was blues. It was one or the other. Either it was gospel music or blues. But I hated it. I hated the blues. I didn't like it. As a young kid, I was like, man, I hate this blues. What is it, my baby? I didn't want to hear no blues, man. I wanted to hear, as I got, older, I wanted to hear James Brown and funky stuff, Sam, I'm a soul man. I didn't want to hear.
So why was your reaction that way towards the blues at that time?
Because it was the music of your parents and your grandparents, and we've always had that situation. Like today, we listen to soul music, and now the younger cats behind us, they're in the rap, So it's like their attitude is probably like mine. Man, I don't want to hear those soul music and blues. I want to hear, Dre and Snoop or somebody. You know what I mean? It's like that. It was just that thing that you wanted to hear your own, what fit your generation. You didn't appreciate your culture because it wasn't explained in a way that we should honor and respect our culture. So we just kind of blew it off. It wasn't modern enough. It was old. And but then as I got older and I wanted to become a successful musician, I ended up playing in a blues band in Chicago. And then the rest was like, it was like, I see it, I get it. And B.B. King and those older cats, they kind of drilled in my head that, hey, buddy, this is your culture, man. What we do, you shouldn't be disrespectful to it. And I'll tell you a situation later about how BB brought it home to me.
Well, actually, that brings me to these questions that I have right here, and that is, you have connections with a few cats from the blues who have ties to Houston. And,
oh yeah.
And the first cat I was going to talk to you about was B.B. King. Many people may not know that B.B. King had a huge Houston connection because of his affiliation with Peacock Records, and he was represented by the Buffalo booking agency, which was also out of Peacock Records. And Peacock Records used to be located in 5th Ward on Lyons Avenue, headed by Don Roby. So how did you come to play with B.B. King?
Well, it's really strange because when I was in the military in Fort Riley, Kansas, I had an aunt that lived in Kansas City, and they used to have something called the Cool Jazz Festivals, which was jazz artists mixed with blues and soul and funk artists. And my aunt was actually one of the dancers on Stormy Weather, the movie Stormy Weather. She's one of those ladies dancing on that movie. And I had an uncle who lived in Houston. He passed away, of course. He was in the Negro League, Willard Brown. And he He was an outfielder on the Kansas City Monarchs.
Man.
So Jackie Robinson was like a young kid on the Monarchs when he got the first black baseball player. But, you know, Satchel Paige and all those people, I met them, and I didn't appreciate who the hell they were. The Negro League. I remember seeing, you know, a bunch of black baseball players growing up, but I didn't appreciate it. But anyway, when I moved to Chicago after I got out of the military, I got in a band with a singer named Otis Clay, and we did a major concert opening for B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, Albert King, O.V. Wright, Miss Betty Wright. They weren't related, but Tyrone Davis, Little Milton, and it went around, and the tour ended in Chicago, and there was a jam session, and the house band that was doing the jam session didn't want to play another set unless they got paid, because everybody came to the club for an after party, and they said, "Hey man, can you guys play one more set so these guys can come up, BB and everybody can sit in?" They're like, "Hell no, you gotta pay us, man. We ain't playing now." and I was like, we were on the tour, so I was like, "Hey man, can we use your equipment?" I knew the band leader. He said, "Yeah, Tony, but man, you guys, man, y'all, what's up with that? Y'all always playing free and stuff, man. What's up?" So anyway, we did the jam session. B.B. King wanted to hire us after he heard us. And his band leader asked us right in front of that other band leader. He said, "How would you guys like to play with B.B. King?" And my guy went, "Damn." Like, "Hey, man, well, that's what you get, man. You should have just did the gig. Might have been you know. But so once I got in BB's band, am I going too far away from your question?
No, not
Once
at all.
I got in BB's band, then it was on. BB fired me 5 times.
What?
Because my dad and BB King were good friends, but he didn't know that his friend's son was in his band. He didn't know until I told him who my dad was. And he said, "What? That's my friend." My dad was the MC at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, New York. He was the MC for all of the concerts, and he was a disc jockey, so he played everybody's records. So he was called King Coleman, the Mashed Potato King, and he put together the Mashed Potatoes dance with James Brown.
Wow.
You know the dance he slide across the floor, and my
Yep.
dad created that dance with James Brown, and they did a record about the mashed potatoes. So once BB found out, "That's your dad?" Man, BB kept his foot in my behind. And I was like the youngest cat in the band. So I would reject, you know, older cats. You know, I'm very, very young, and I was just really, really excited to be playing music and touring and living my dream. And I was very, very ambitious, and I was real confident in myself. And I was a little overly confident in it, and it appeared to be that I was being arrogant, you know, but I was just being young and stupid.
So how old were you when you joined BB's band?
I was like 23 years old.
And what year? What year was that about?
That was 78.
78.
That was 78. And we were tour together, B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, and Albert King, and Johnny Guitar Watson, another Texan.
Houston.
Yes, sir. So Johnny, I like Johnny Guitar Watson because he was funky. Johnny Guitar, he was actually an old school blues guy, but he got tired of being an old school blues guy, so he started putting some funk in his blues. Like, yeah, man. And for me, that was like, yeah, I'm all about Johnny Guitar Watson. I didn't want to hear, "When I first met you, baby, baby, that was jazz, Sweet 16. I want to hear, you know, real motherfucker. Not, you know, you know, he was funky, man. So not, but I'm playing with BB and Bobby Blue Bland and all of those guys, but we all tour together. And BB would do a concert in Mississippi. He would take 2 weeks out of every month, out of every July in Mississippi. and play for free for all the poor people who couldn't afford to see him out in the Delta. And he played at these little juke joints, you know, with grass growing through the stage, you know, looked like a bat sitting in the corner, like a big old muskrat ran across the floor or something. And we have to dress on the bus. We didn't have a hotel and stuff. We just have to go out there and play, and we'd be on our bus. And I would be the young guy in the band making fun about it. Like, man, look at this damn place, man. What the hell is this? The building about to fall down and die. Man, this is a bunch of BS right here. Man. BB be listening to me laughing and joking about it. Everybody leave the bus. And BB said, Tony Cole, man, I'd like to talk to you, son. I said, sure, what's up? Have a seat. You don't want to play here? I said, what do you mean? Well, I hear you making fun of the place. And, you know, son, you've been around the world with me. We play Carnegie Hall. We play for kings, queens, presidents. You've done a lot with me, son. Don't you think these people deserve the same thing? I'm not getting paid to do it, but you're getting paid. And I think it's really sad if you're making fun of these people, because these are my people. This is where I'm from, son. I feel like you're making fun of me, son. So if you don't want to be here, just let me know and we'll find somebody. And I was like, dang. I felt like a real ass, you know. But that was the moment that, bing, that's when I became, hey, man, I'm not with Earth, Wind, and Fire. I'm not with Parliament Funkadelic. You know, I'm not with The Emotions or George Benson or, you know, I'm with B.B. King and Bobby Blue Bland and Albert King. I'm out here with the blues, man. So, damn it, I'm going to be the best blues drummer anybody can be. I'm going to be it. I'm into the blues. It's my culture. And so we used to play a lot of concerts in smaller venues that BB was accustomed to playing before he got majorly big and started doing a lot of festivals. So he stopped doing a lot of the little black clubs. And the more popular he got, the bigger the venues, of course. And throughout the years, I noticed that black people, the older black people still love the blues, but they weren't necessarily able to spend that money on those tickets. The ticket prices were higher because now we're playing festivals. So the blues demographic sort of started getting a little bit weak when it came to blacks. And you just see more white people. And the younger blacks are like I was, my attitude, man, I ain't nobody trying to hear them old blues guys, you know. They're not looking at it like, hey, man, that's our culture, man. We got to support our culture. That's our culture. The blues is African-American gift to the world. This is our music. Now, the younger black cats are playing with the funk bands like P-Funk and stuff and doing that kind of stuff, and Roger Troutman and Zapp. But all of that music has the blues in it. But, you know, it's not the hip thing. So I looked at it like, I'm in the blues. I'm gonna be one of the best blues drummers. I'm gonna try to be the best drummer, period. But I'm damn sure gonna be the best blues drummer I can be. You know.
Man, that was a very powerful story you just told, and especially that piece where Brother B.B. King, you know, pulled your collar and hit you to the importance of what you were doing. It just so happens that, you know, my folks are from Mississippi.
Right.
And so, you know, growing up in my household, my family never listened to the blues. You know, the blues was like, you know, even though we grew up in the country, that was like country, you know,
yeah,
it's like, you know, backwards, you know?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the sentiment that, I traveled with for most of my life when it came to the blues. There's another artist that you mentioned that also has a Houston connection and that you said you toured with, and that was Bobby Blue Bland.
Absolutely.
And he was also a cat who recorded with Peacock Records and made a name for himself out of Houston. So talk about playing with Brother Bobby Blue Bland?
Well, see, working with BB was like working with a step uncle. Working with Blue was like working with a step dad. BB was one of the cats, even though, and Bobby Blue Bland and my dad were really tight. And BB was tight with my dad, but Bobby Blue Bland and King Coleman were really tight. So Blue, when he was treating me like his son, he really was treating me like his son. Whereas BB would tell me things the way I should do things. BB would say, I want you to do this and don't say this and don't do that. Bobby Blue Bland was more like, don't you think you could have done that differently? You see what I'm saying? So yeah. Blue's approach was smooth and cool. BB was like, I don't like it when you do this or that, keep your mouth shut, son. And Blue was like, do you think you really had to cuss that dude out like that? You see the difference? Definitely. So I'll listen to Blue, but with BB trying to like discipline me, I'd be like, man, I ain't trying to hear you. Where Blue would be, I was like, well, yeah, maybe I could have. He go, yeah, don't let him play you out the pockets, He would talk to you and talk with you, whereas BB would talk at me. So my spirit, I'm a fiery spirit. I'm a Leo. So I'm not gonna back down. So, if you approach me the wrong way, I got to handle it. That's my attitude. Like, we got to deal with that. But if we can talk now, we can be cool. But so working with Bobby Blue Bland was really my teacher of the blues and how to play the blues his way, because his whole thing was he was just comfortable being Bobby Blue Bland. BB was very insecure, and BB felt like I got to be extra, extra good, and I got to be extra, extra humble when he didn't want to be. But Blue was like, that's just me. I'm cool. I'm happy being Bobby Blue Bland. You like me, cool. If you don't, cool. But I got to do me, and I'm not going to try to impress anybody. I'm just doing me. See, when you're doing you don't have to think about doing you. When you're trying to do something to please other people, now you got to remember that you're supposed to act a certain way, which to me, that's kind of, I understand business, but I prefer if like my last record, Take Me As I Am. I'm me. I respect you. You respect me. I don't think like you. You don't think like me, but I respect you and I appreciate you, and we can keep it moving, But Blue would never judge anything or anybody. Blue was smooth. And Blues, Bobby Blue Bland's band kicked every blues band's ass. Bobby Blue Bland was really black folks' soulful blues. Bobby was smooth, the best blues singer, period. Johnny Taylor would not allow anyone to headline over him, only Bobby Blue Bland. So Blue, when it came to soul and blues, singers were like, man, Bobby Blue Bland, yeah, And BB would say, I'm just glad he don't play guitar.
Man, when you talk about what BB King says in my ear, man, you sound like him when you.
Yeah, I do.
I could hear him saying those things that you're putting down.
Oh, when I really want to focus on him, I can imitate him real well, his voice, because he used to stay on my ass so much. So I guess. But he used to say, son, I know you wonder why. Son, I know you wonder why I'm always on you, son. But one day, when I'm dead and gone, you're going to say, oh, B told me that. And you're going to think about these things, and you'll say, he told me that. He was right. And he's right. See, for me, I play with all those people, but BB and Bobby Blue Bland are the main two out of everybody. Those two, there should be a rock, a mountain with their faces carved in it, like Mount Rushmore. America should have him, James Brown, B.B. King, Little Richard, Etta James. There should be a mountain with their, I mean, we should honor these people because the Black music is the reason other music exists, because of our culture. So Juneteenth makes me think of all of the pain and suffering Black people had to endure and still come out smiling. And that's why today, with all this racism coming back out again, is because some people think, man, let's don't talk about that. Well, when you don't talk about it, that's what you see happening today. It's still been here, but everybody been sleep. They don't want to talk about it, particularly white Americans. You know, they got white guilt because, you know, it's like, well, you know, I didn't do it. My ancestors, I wasn't there. You know, why are you mad at me? We're not mad at you, but we want you to acknowledge that the way we were treated in America was no different than Jewish people were treated over in Europe and Germany and Austria. When Hitler was doing what he did, that happened to us here in America as Black people. Our Black culture, we still have to acknowledge and remember it and move forward, but never forget what happened to us. And let's do better for ourselves, with ourselves, to make sure that never happens again. But we've been allowing people to continue to be disrespectful to us as a race because, well, I don't want to cause any problems, but I can just tell you right now, I don't appreciate it, but I'm going to try to do my job and I'm going to try to not pay attention to that. I just don't want to look over there at it. And now you're frustrated. And then people are saying, hey, man, like these white supremacy attitudes and neo-Nazi attitudes exist, and some of these people happen to be police officers and every other different walks of life. So when I think about Juneteenth and Black American culture, people like to say, well, you know, we're African American, and I get all of that, but I didn't grow up in Africa. I don't know. I've been to Africa. I grew up in Kissimmee, Florida, Osceola County, United States of America. I ain't going back to nothing unless I go back to Kissimmee. I'm American and I'm Black. So this ain't just your country. This is my damn country too. My people suffered and killed and fought for this country. And you're going to expect me to let you treat me different? Ain't going to happen. So without being, you know, angry and mad every day, you just that's always in the back. It's back there. So we've always been taught you got to do 3 times better than a white person. You got to keep your tongue. See, that's what BB and we would fall out, because BB was like, son, no, just gotta get along. Don't say nothing. I'd be like, that worked for you. I understand you grew up in Mississippi. You had to walk off the sidewalk when you saw a white man coming. You seen Black people get castrated, hung, murdered, shot by white folks, misused, abused, and you couldn't say anything or do anything. And then the younger generation came up, and Martin Luther King and everybody was sacrificing and everything for us to be treated equal. And then we forgot. So we started disrespecting each other because we still got those insecurities about who we are. We don't respect who we are as a culture. Like blues, all the hell with that. And then white folks take the blues and go, I love the blues. And they make hundreds of millions and billions of dollars off of my culture. And I can't make $2. Nah, that's bad arithmetic. So Juneteenth, it's a great thing. It's gonna, it has to be a national holiday. We have to be acknowledged for the Confederate state of Texas not letting Black slaves know that you've been free 2 years.
Well, you know, we are getting to the point where I did want to bring in Juneteenth into the conversation. That's a whole part of the conversation that I'm just like, hey, we ain't got time for that because Brother Coleman's on the road.
I'm sorry, man. I just
no, do not apologize. You are making it real. You know, I mean, definitely the things you've seen, And the road you travel is very important for people to hear, you know, your ideas and the reflection of the reality as you see it. But I was going to ask you, as we moved into the Juneteenth question, well, actually, you know what? When you made that statement that, you know, you're not from Africa, you're from America, it reminds me of a cat that was potentially going to be a part of this conversation, and that's Gary Clark Jr.
Yeah.
And his new song that he has out now, you know, called, you know, This Is My Land.
Yeah.
And, you know, he talks about the fact that, you know, he's an American son. And,
That's right.
you know, he has a right to be here.
You can't wrap your ass around the American flag tighter than me. You can't get more patriotic than me. And I'm Black, and this is my country. There's nothing wrong with America. The concept of America is not the problem. It's the white supremacy, racist attitudes that's the problem. The country's fine. So my whole thing is, you can't go to certain countries, like you can't go to Singapore and chew gum and spit it out. You get fined for that. In certain countries, you can't do certain things. You know, I mean, it's like the environment and certain things you just don't do. So this is the United States of America. Racism has to be something. I'm not going to stop someone from being a racist, but here's what it is that needs to happen. In my opinion, BB told me to say that, to say in your opinion. Son, you don't know everything, son. Say in your opinion. But I do know this, BB. White America's got to say, we don't tolerate that. When a white person hear another white person say those niggers and this, that, and other, and you work with those, you're supposed to say, hey, time out. Hey, my man, time out. That's not cool. We don't do that here. No, you can't work here with that attitude.
Exactly.
What do you mean? What do I mean? What I just said. Who you calling a nigger? What's that all about? Nah, man, we don't. You know what? You do it again, you're fired. You're not gonna work around here with that attitude. See, if you keep putting pressure on people to change each other, eventually they're gonna be like old dinosaurs. Y'all the only ones still into that? Bye. We American.
Definitely.
We don't play that. You gotta say.
Definitely.
All these major people gotta say, and we gotta vote. We gotta vote, vote, vote. We can protest, do all of that. The masses of protest, and I'm not talking about looting and shooting and all of that. Those are ignorant folks. Y'all go over there somewhere else. But peaceful protests, all of that, go to the voting booth. Like Malcolm said, by any means necessary, get to the voting booth and vote. If you can't walk, I'll come and pick you up and take you.
Brother Coleman, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I want to ask you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. I get going sometime, man.
Oh no, brother, it's real. It is real, and there's nothing you said that I do not, agree with 100%. I want to know your connection with Juneteenth. Did you grow up knowing about Juneteenth? I
did not. I didn't know anything about Juneteenth. Somebody say something to Juneteenth to me, I'll be like, what is that, a picnic or something? What is Juneteenth? First time I came to Texas, when I was living in Dallas, I used to live in Dallas. I was working with Johnny Taylor at the time. And they said, yeah, man, we're going to have Juneteenth, a concert for Juneteenth. I was like, you mean 4th of July, right? No, my man, Juneteenth. I didn't know. See, that once again, you got to keep teaching and preaching our culture and our history so we won't forget, so we'll know. So I was like, oh yeah, I think I heard about that. Yeah, the word got out in Texas late about being freeing the slaves. Yeah, cool. But we have to acknowledge our history and our culture to pass it on down, no different than other cultures do. But a lot of Black people have become very successful for the suffering and integration, when we could have the right to be free, to be integrated amongst white society. And some of us have done really well financially, and we've gotten college educations, and some of us get bougie a lot of times and feel like, well, I'm not really a part of the hood anymore. I have a degree, I have a master's, I have money, so that doesn't apply to me anymore. No, it applies to you. It still applies to you. And I'm not trying to make fun of people for being successful, Black people, and saying they're being bougie, but keep yourself humble. Come back down. Remember where you came from. I don't expect you to live in the ghetto, but at least go in the ghetto every now and again and try to help the ghetto, unghettoize the ghetto, and help out a little bit. Put up some youth programs, grab the youth, do something. Because when we were growing up, your daddy could whoop my ass if I did something wrong.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You try that today, the mama or daddy, I'm gonna pop a cap in your ass and say something to my boy again. It's like,
and you're going to jail.
Yeah, and we have some good traditions growing up Black and segregated. We always look out for each other. If I saw you at the airport right now, if we were in Houston Intercontinental or Hobby, and I just be going to my gate or going to baggage claim, and you going to the checkout or security, if I see you and I don't even know you, I do like this.
Oh, definitely. We acknowledge each other. We acknowledge each other.
It's like, hey, definitely, brother, I got your back. Nowadays you do that to a younger Black cat. You'd be like, "What's up? You got beef? You got a problem?"
Yeah, man. We definitely have a lot of work to do in those areas. When I came to Houston from Mobile, Alabama, that's where I grew up, and I heard about Juneteenth, and the way it would relate to me is that enslaved Africans in Texas were informed 2.5 years late. And so for the longest, my sentiment was, why are you celebrating being last? But over the last, 5 years, I have taken the time to study our history, and I realized that sentiment is not correct. What people are basing that off of is the Emancipation Proclamation, which was issued by Lincoln in 1863, January 1863. But that proclamation had no legal precedence to free anybody. No southern state said, oh, Lincoln, the president, has said we got to let our slaves go. He's gonna let our slaves go if we don't join the Union. It was like, no, man, I'm not doing that. So it had to be enforced through military might.
Right.
And so the way that the war worked, my understanding and my limited study, is that as the Union moved across the South from east to west, that's how enslaved Africans across the South were freed. And since Texas was the furthest state in the Confederacy, that's why, it took until June for them to inform the African Americans are enslaved Blacks, because we weren't even considered Americans at that time.
No, just slaves.
But the war didn't end. The first surrender didn't happen till April. So April, May, June, that's only a few months. That's right. That's not 2.5 years. And then
still the major had to come out and enforce it because people didn't want to let it go,
All over the South, the Union had to enforce it, because think about this. So the way that the story is told is that enslaved Africans in Texas were the last to be informed about their emancipation. But the reality is all throughout the South, slave owners didn't acknowledge the end of the war. They continued to work their enslaved blacks until the Union would sit down to create these freedmen bureaus and to force them to, and then there was the ratification of the 13th Amendment, which the last state to ratify it in the South was Mississippi, and that went until December of '65. So again, what Texas is credited with is that, so as every state was emancipated, that means every state had their own emancipation date. That's a Union went to Alabama, so they got their date. Mississippi, they got their date. Louisiana, they got their date. Texas got their date. Texas is the only state where formerly enslaved blacks celebrated their emancipation day and made it a tradition. So now Juneteenth is celebrated all throughout the country and actually around the world.
Yes.
So in opposed to people looking at it as a symbol of shame, we should be looking at it as a symbol of pride, because we take the time to acknowledge, one, that we were emancipated, but two, we get to celebrate our ancestors who survived the institution. They were not meant to survive, because we were meant to be worked from cradle to grave. And we get to honor and mourn all of those unnamed ancestors that we have who suffered and died through the institution of slavery. Yes. So my ideas about Juneteenth are markedly different than when I first became aware of it, as a college student at Texas University when I first came to Houston many, many years ago.
Sure.
And so, now in my mind, it's a positive thing, because it's really the only time during the course of the year when we can pause and remember all that our ancestors went through in order for us to be here, because we are them and they are us.
Absolutely.
And so to get back to your connection with the blues, why do you think it's important for, and you've talked about this all throughout our conversation, but why should the blues be important to African Americans?
Because there's so many other races and cultures monopolizing off of our culture and getting rich and having record companies and diluting our richness. And it's kind of like when the first time I went to Europe and you asked for, when I used to drink Coca-Cola a lot and Coke, you say, can I get a Coke? And they'd say, Coke? You want a Coke or a Coke Light? So we have a lot of blues lights. The culture has been watered down because the richness of who we are and why we do what we do is natural. And very few people outside of our culture can do it with the right feeling and the natural way, because they've been with us. They white musicians, let me just say white people in America. There are white musicians who actually hang out with you, eat some barbecue, drink some beer, some whiskey, hang around you, play with the band, absorb our culture, our community. They feel comfortable and happy, and they've been indoctrinated. And then we knight them and say you good because you got it. Then there's others who just go on the surface and read a book and get a blues DVD for dummies on how to play the blues, and then they become rich and famous doing something, a lighter version of it, and just taking our culture and just destroying it, and it's not, and pushing it, marketing that as the blues, and it's not. So it's important for us to know where we came from, to know where we're going, and improve ourselves in life. But if you don't care about your past, others will take your past and make it the way they want it to be, not the way it is. And that's the problem with us in anything. Just like BB was like, why are you laughing and making fun of who we are like that? Yeah, these people are poor, but you know, BB could have just stayed in New York, Carnegie Hall, and play a show or wherever around the world, and don't go play free for those poor black people and just say the hell with them. But would that be right? No. So those of us who don't have what we have, we need to reach down and pull them up and help them get there. But we should never forget our culture. I mean, everybody's culture is rich, and that's what you want. If I wanted to go to Texas to a Mexican restaurant, I guarantee you, if you had some friends say, man, I'm hungry today, I want some Mexican food. And they say, do you know a good Mexican restaurant? You say, yeah, I got a partner named Tony Cole, man, TC, he got a Mexican restaurant. I'd be like, yo, what's up? Come on in, have some, what you want? Some guacamole or what? They say, is that really Mexican? Man, you better go find a Mexican family with a good restaurant and experience their culture, some Mexican food. Don't go to Taco Bell and call that, you want Italian food, don't go to Oliver in a Garden.
Olive Garden.
No, not Olive Garden. I say Oliver in a Garden.
Oliver in the Garden.
Go to an Italian restaurant. So no difference. You know, we got a rich culture. We've contributed so much to the world from being black. I'm saying American black people have contributed so much, not just music and sports. I mean, you know, acknowledgement. We need to be acknowledged for our contributions, and we need to be respected for it and appreciated for it. Is that too much to ask? And paid when we're supposed to be paid.
So Brother Coleman, one of the things that, you know, you've pointed out and that I definitely recognize, you know, and I've heard many musicians talk about this, you know, not just with blues, but with jazz, art form that I'm very much invested in talking about. And that is that, you know, the demographics of the audience has changed, you know, from being majority black to majority white. And so, and the musicians who play this music, you know, that still seems to be the way things have moved as well. So in your mind, and of course this is the world that you exist in, who are the young, influential and very talented African-American blues musicians that we should be aware of and supporting at this time, if you could speak to that?
Well, there are a lot of younger black blues musicians. Chris Stone Ingram, Kingfish, he goes by Kingfish. Chris Stone, he's from Mississippi, Clarksdale. Young man is about 21 now, just turned 21. He's from Mississippi, he plays guitar and sing with the richness of an old soul. Like he has a song called "I've Been Here Before." He said his grandmother used to say, you've been here before." His spirit is so soulful and rich. And there are others. There's, oh my God, now I'm really showing my brain.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No, it's two young black brothers from Texas down in Austin, other than Gary Clark. These young black brothers, one plays guitar, one plays bass. They're gonna kill me, guys. I'm sorry, I can't think of y'all's name right now. But they're good. They're good. But here's the thing. They are aware of old school blues, but blues is like anything else. It's kind of like that Forrest Gump movie when my man say, "Where you got boiled shrimp, fried shrimp, you got Creole shrimp," you know. It's like blues. You got funk blues, soul blues, rock blues, jazz blues, gospel blues. You know, it's a different variations. But like I told Gary Clark, hey man, Gary, when Gary Clark started playing guitar, he was playing blues, but then he started changing it into his ideas. And a lot of people were criticizing him and saying, man, what's up with that? He ain't blues, you know. And I told Gary, man, tell them people, if they want to criticize you, let them call me and talk to me, and I'll deal with it. I mean, he is blues, but he's Gary Clark blues. No different than B.B. King didn't sound like Bobby Blue Bland, like Johnny Guitar Watson, like Albert Collins, another badass Texan. So there are some young men coming up, and I want to produce these younger guys into mixing some of the hip hop elements into blues to make it their music. They're not me. We grew up in different times, so we gotta be with the blues like Miles Davis was with jazz. Miles said, "Yeah, I changed jazz 5 times. They call it jazz. I call it Miles." I asked Miles Davis. I told Miles Davis one time, man, I can't play jazz, man. He said, jazz? I don't play jazz. I play Miles. That's what they call it. So you got to be original and be you, you know. And but always know where you came from. That's how we keep our culture rich. And we got to keep people intelligent enough to know that don't have to turn your back on your culture. When the higher you get, you don't have to go away from your culture. Still honor it and respect it. We got to get that back in the game and go vote. I can't keep saying that enough, man. We got to vote out these old racist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi attitudes out of the government. It's important to go vote. Don't just vote for the president. Vote for your congressman who represents your district. You got to be intelligent and aware. Watch the news. See what's going on, man. You got to, you know, black folks, we good at complaining and screaming and fussing and hollering, but take that same energy and holler your ass to that voting booth. Bitch, and moan in that line until you get your vote. Man, I ain't trying to be out here all damn day. You keep your ass in that line. I don't care what it takes.
Well, you know, we've you know, many members of our tribe, you know, have talked about the fact of how our ancestors are not respected in history books and in our education, but you know, that system is created by, you know, as you said, a white supremacist system. It's designed to not tell you who you are. Exactly. But if you value your ancestors and you realize that whatever it is that you have, they died for, you know, that they made it possible for us to have any of the rights that we have. They died for it.
That's right. And we got to check ourselves, you know, we got to check ourselves. I mean, because I look at it like this. If you don't respect yourself and respect where you come from, how can you expect somebody else to respect you and respect where you come from?
That's like the Staple Singers. Remember that? If you don't respect yourself, nobody's going to give a good hoot.
Well, there you go. That's easy. There you go. I mean, you know, we have it. See, I've become successful in my lifetime in music in spite of being disrespected, because I'll call you out on it. But in spite of what you're trying to throw at me, you still not going to stop me from achieving my goals, because my goals are way bigger than that little nonsense you trying to throw me off with. So my whole attitude, don't like Bobby Blue Bland say, don't let them play you out of the pocket.
I got you. Well, Brother Coleman,
they try to play us out of the pocket as black race, you know, and I And I ain't sitting here trying to keep talking black and white talk, but unfortunately, that's what's happening today.
You're talking about the reality that has never changed since our ancestors came to these shores. So
if
do not apologize.
If anybody get tender about what I'm saying, you are the problem, man. Yeah. If you get tender and touchy, go sit down, get out the way.
Exactly.
You're not going to stop me. I'm going to live the rest of my life fighting this fight till I can't eat. And when I'm half dead, and I still be fighting.
Well, Brother Coleman, we are at the end of our time.
Okay.
But before we go, I want people to know how they could support you through checking out your music and checking out what you have going on in regards to performing, even though right now everything's kind of like at a standstill because of the virus, but you know, that's not going to last forever. So how can people get in contact with your music, your touring schedules, or whatever you have going on right now?
Social media, online, just pull up my name, my website, and you'll find me on social media. I'm easy to find, and support our Black culture and all Black artists. And we gotta keep it real. You know, we can't let things get watered down, and we gotta protect our dignity of who we are as a people. And nobody has to think alike and be alike, but just let's work together towards the same goal. That's all we need to do. And how we do it might not match up, but at least we're trying to achieve the same thing, a betterment of our life for all of us. But, you know, do your thing, but just remember, you represent your culture. You can't run from it. You can't hide. And get some of them little young millionaire rappers to help us blues cats out. Y'all bring y'all little young ass and put some blues guys on one of y'all concerts.
Well, Brother Coleman, I want to thank you so much, man. This time has been incredible. Please know that I'm going to be, playing your music on my show.
Thank you.
Because you have a Houston connection, and that's how my show works. You know, even if you're not from Houston, if you've performed with a musician, who has a Houston connection, I consider you a part of the family. And
well, we're all family. Houston is anywhere Black folks is, y'all my family. We're all family. So it doesn't matter. I'm Juneteenth. If I'm in Europe tomorrow, I'm still Juneteenth.
Well, Brother Coleman, again, thank you so much, and I'm gonna wish you in advance happy Juneteenth.
Thank you, and don't let this be our first time talking. So if we get out of here, we gotta stay in touch.
Oh, that's a given, sir.
And it's nothing but love, man. Nothing but love. Nothing but love.
Thank you, sir, so much, and
thank you.
We would definitely be catching up.
Right on.
All right.
TC.